Great.
Sounds great.
You're good to go.
Thanks, Sean. All right, welcome everyone to the Wallet Interoperability Special Interest Group call for May 19th, 2025. Today on the agenda, we will hear about and discuss test tooling for the Decentralized Identity Interop Profile, or DIIP, v4 from Samuel Rinnetmäki. Thank you so much for joining us. Really looking forward to it. Let's see, we are recording this call. It will be posted here on the meeting page later today. We are, of course, following the Linux Foundation antitrust policy and the Open Wallet Foundation Code of Conduct. Let's see. Are there any announcements before we get started or any introductions? Anybody who's new to the call and would like to hop off mute and say a few words about what they're interested in this space? Yes, Sean, announcement?
Hey, Shar. A couple real quick ones. This is under the open discussions bullets, but the Wallet Interoperability SIG is looking for projects who want to present their work. There is a sign-up sheet. I will share it in chat in a second. On June 4th, there is going to be a Linux Foundation Decentralized Trust webinar with Oracle on self-sovereign identity on Hyperledger Fabric VDR with OWF Credo agents and privacy preserving a non-creds verifiable credentials. We're really looking forward to this session. I'm particularly excited about it because I get to, this has nothing to do with me. The LFDT team put this one together. It's going to be great. So definitely check that out. There is a registration. The session will be recorded and posted to the LFDT, Linux Foundation Decentralized Trust YouTube. Also, the last two things, Veridid and Canon, Dave McKay joined the Acapug call last week. It was great. He talked about the work that they're doing with a couple of state governments, the work that they're doing using Octopi. He's going to be joining upcoming Credo and Bifold team calls because he's got some questions and ideas. So please give him a warm welcome. You can check out the video for that Acapug call last week right there in the link. I will put it into chat in a moment. And then we have upcoming wallet interoperability SIG calls. Clesio will be doing the actually, I'm going to make a mistake here. I'm sorry. So the next session, we are off next week. The next session will be June 2nd with Esther McKay talking about wallets and interoperability in the EU DI Wallet Consortium. Clesio from the Bifold community will be talking about Bifold. Jonathan Rayback will be talking about DID method standardization. On June 23rd, the MOSIP team, Sasikumar and Resham, will be talking about the MOSIP NG wallet. And then Lucas Hahn from the Hope team will be joining us on June 30th to talk about SD JavaScript. All of this is up on the wiki, and I'll make sure it's included in the page. Thanks, Shar.
Thank you so much, Sean. Great announcements, great stuff. Yeah, we've got a lot of good things going on. Let's see, any other announcements or introductions? Yes, Samuel.
Yeah, I put an announcement to the wiki page or the page for this meeting, announcing that there is a new DID method proposal because we all agree that there are too few DID methods. But it's a kind of half-serious suggestion that maybe we could use OpenID Federation and DIDs together. So the suggestion is to use the OpenID Federation entity configurations as DID documents, and the DID method specifies that. So I just thought that people in this special interest group might be interested in knowing that this is happening. There is this kind of proposal, and maybe also comment on it.
Yeah, interesting. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Appreciate you sending the link there. Let's see, Adrian, you've got your hand up.
Hi, everyone. I'm Adrian with Oracle. I lead the SSI efforts here at Oracle. And thank you, Sean, for the shout out for our call. I'm also excited about it to go through our solution. But yeah, just happy to be here and look at all the different solutions that are available.
Thank you so much for joining, Adrian. Great to have you here. And yeah, looking forward to the Oracle webinar as well. So great, thanks. All right. Awesome. And thanks, Sean, for sending out the wiki page so that everybody can grab the links off of here as they wish. All right, let's see. Any other announcements or introductions? All right, in terms of some quick project updates in Akapai, release 1.3.0 came out 2 or so weeks ago. As Sean mentioned, we had a great presentation from Dave McKay on Canon at the last Akapug call, as well as discussion around publishing LTS artifacts. Let's see, I know on Bifold now supports OpenID for VCI, OpenID for VP with ST-JOT VC and W3C JOT VC, so that's great to hear. And let's see. Yeah, that's really what I have. If there aren't any more introductions or announcements, feel free to jump in. But otherwise, I will turn it over to you, Samuel, for the presentation. Thank you so much for joining.
Thanks for having me. And now I think you can see my screen.
Yes,
So
looks great.
first, some background about the decentralized identity interop profile. It has been around for a couple of years, and it's currently in its 4th version, and it kind of originates from the Dutch Blockchain Coalition, which was a project that I think ended at the end of 24. And from the ashes of Dutch Blockchain Coalition rose the FIDES community, which now is kind of coordinating the development of the DIIP profile. So there are many Dutch companies and also Findinet, who is a Finnish company, and then also some others participating in the development of the Interop profile. And there are monthly meetups where the content of the Interop profile is discussed. And in order to finalize the version 4, we also had some extra calls to go through the details and to agree the next version. The previous version was already tested in a Plugfest. So there was, I think, in early November last year, there was a Plugfest event. But before that event, the participants tested each other's solutions and mostly got things to work using DIIP version 3. But we also realized that the version 3 wasn't strict enough. So even though it said that everybody must support OpenID for VCI and VP specific versions of the protocols, those protocols still leave a lot of optionality to the vendors, or actually, at least they say that there are these kind of flows and these kind of signature algorithms and these kind of things you can do, and not everybody implements everything at the moment. So the focus in the version 4 of the DIIP was to kind of make stricter choices about the options of the specifications, that you need to support at least this and this and this. And we've been working with the version 4 pretty much this year, and approved the version 4 last week's Friday, or maybe almost more than a week ago. And the Interop profile is published. It's available in the FIDES community's GitHub, and there's the address where you can find the specification. And what it looks like, it chooses 2 credential formats. So W3C Verified Credential Data Model 2.0 and SD-VC. And for all the specifications that the Interop profile requires support for, there are specific versions mentioned because at least the OpenID for VC protocols have been under heavy development during the last years and months. So for the signature scheme, it pretty much specifies SD-JOTs, but there are kind of two flavors of SD-JOTs. So the VC Jose Cose standard specifies how the verified the W3C credentials can be signed using SD-JOTs, and then the SD-JOT VC draft specifies how to use the same selectivity disclosure mechanism to sign those VCs. So pretty much the same to implement, but with slight differences. So in the W3C data model, the whole credential is put within the kind of content of the JOT as one piece, one object. And it only requires support for one signature algorithm and two identifiers. So it only uses DIDs to identify actors, and it requires support for JWKs and DID web. And the idea is that mostly the organizations could use DID web as their identifier, and you could use DID JWK to identify individual persons, but it doesn't explicitly say it that way. And we also kind of thought whether it should be mentioned that for issuers and verifiers, you could use DID web, and for holders, you would use DID JWK, but we also removed that because we want to support also organizations as holders, and in that case, the holder credential subject could be also identified with DID web method. And for issuance and verification protocols, the DIIP profile relies on OpenID for VC protocols, and the latest drafts, the draft 28 is not a implementer's candidate, at least wasn't a week ago. So there probably will be a newer version still approaching the version 1.0, but that was the latest, and that draft 28, the protocol moved pretty quickly from the draft 23 or 24 to 28 in rapid succession, and the authors of the DIIP profile, so that the 28 is much clearer because it removed some stuff like presentation exchange and also brought in some new clarity. And so that was taken into the DIIP, although it's very fresh. And there is mentioned that if you need revocation, then the DIIP profile requires support of IETF token status lists. So maybe that's enough for the current version and the specifications included there. And the idea is that the next version 5 of the profile probably mandates support for digital credentials API and OpenID Federation as the trust establishment mechanism. And what do we need DIIP for is that, well, I don't have the definitive answer for that. There are many participants in the DIIP community, and everybody pretty much has their own reasons, but here's a collection of some of the reasons. So there are different standards and specifications, but because some of them only kind of consider the credential format, some are about the signing algorithm, some are about the protocols and so on. So you need a profile in order to be interoperable. You need a profile which combines multiple standards, multiple specifications, and takes, for example, saying that, okay, this is the credential format to be used, these are the protocols to be used, and so on. So in one way, Interop profile is collecting things from various sources, but it also makes choices and says that, okay, these features of a spec are mandatory and these are nice to have. But so there is, for example, high assurance Interop profile already explaining how to use SD-JOTS with OpenID protocols. And that is a good profile to be used in many cases, but it requires some stuff which is not always needed and might even be hurtful for the user experience. For example, device binding. If your credential is bound to a single device, you cannot copy it to other devices, and you cannot really reuse in a way that an employee gives the certification or credential to employer, and employer presents that credential to somebody else saying that, okay, my employee has this credential. So that's why we need a low assurance Interop profile for the credentials that are not identification credentials. They are not used to log in to services or prove who you are, but maybe more like what you have. And for those use cases, we need another profile. We cannot use HYPE. Then also there is no other profile that we were aware of that combines the W3C data model and OpenID for VC protocols, and DIIP enables that. Also, DIIP is focusing on DIDs as identifiers and it enables them. And also DIIP tries to accommodate the use cases where the holder is an organization. And for some DIIP users, they are really looking to use HYPE in production, but because the support for HYPE profile is not yet here, there are not yet enough support by vendors of wallets and agents, then DIIP is something that you can use today, and then you can eventually move on to HYPE when it gets more support. So many reasons to use HYPE. Many reasons to create yet another profile like DIIP. And the design goals of DIIP are pretty much that we try to set the minimum number of requirements, take what's already in use and usable and supported by the vendors of agents and wallets. And we do this by open collaborative process. So there are many wallet and agent vendors are participating, but also the kind of ecosystems and users of the software together specifying that, okay, this is the functionality that we need, and these things should interoperate. And this is not as legislation driven as the HYPE profile might be. So the requirements for DIIP they become more from the business side and use case side. And I think this is my last slide. So we have now the fourth version of the decentralized identity Interop profile. And then we're thinking about what are the next steps. Well, we could use a test suite or test harness to do, first of all, conformance testing. So a wallet vendor or an agent vendor could say that, okay, my software complies to the DIIP profile, and we want to make it easy for them to test whether they are compliant or not. And also easy for somebody else to test whether a piece of software really supports all the required features of the DIIP profile. And in addition to conformance testing, we would also like to test implementations against each other. So saying that this wallet is interoperable with this issuer agent and this verifier agent, and having the documentation in the same way that the Aries Interop profile has, that we can see that, okay, which implementations really work together. And there is a project already underway. So it's starting as a part of EU-funded program, and they are already working with the initial test cases, and they should be available mid-June. And my message to this special interest group is really that, okay, I think when this special interest group was formed, then the Aries Interop profile was moved here. And then the intention was that, okay, there should be also other Interop profiles, not just the Aries stack, but maybe something building on top of the OpenID protocols and maybe the W3C data model. So kind of one question is that, okay, how does this group see the importance of DIIP profile? Would DIIP profile be something that nicely complements Aries and is of interest in this special interest group? And also that what should we learn when we are trying to build the Interop testing harness and test suite for DIIP? What should we learn from Aries efforts? And the kind of, so first of all, to let you know that this exists. The second, what can we learn? And the third point would be that if you're interested in participating, please be in touch. So you can contact me first, and I can hook you up with the project that is implementing the test cases. So that was my introduction, and really, first of all, willing to answer any questions, comments you may have, and then looking forward to discussion. Move the clap, you're just clapping. Also, sorry, so is giving a thumbs up. Are there any questions, comments?
Hey, Samuel, this is Sean. You'd mentioned if someone wants to get in touch with you, what's the best way to do that?
I would say that take my email address from the Wiki page and contact me by email.
Got it. I'll put it in the chat right now.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, this is awesome. Thank you so much for diving into the DIIP. Yeah, I had just a few quick questions. You talked about how there were some choices within OID for VCI and OID for VP in V4.
Yep.
Would you go into more specifics about that? Curious about that.
Yes. Okay. So if we look at the profile itself, first of all, there are the DIIP profile recognizes that there are two flows, pre-authorized and authorization code flow, and then it says that okay, both must be supported, and then says that the transaction code must be supported if this pre-authorized code flow is used. And then it says that the PXE and PAR specifications, which are referred to in OpenID for VCI, must be supported. And yeah, for example, here the OpenID for VCI has both wallet-initiated and issuer-initiated flows, and also the issuer-initiated flow is a requirement. and also immediate and deferred flow. So only the immediate flow is a must requirement and stuff like that. And for the VP side, there are also things which are optional. For example, many client identifier schemes, and the only required here is the DID client identifier scheme, and so on. So did I answer your question? You may, of course, look at that and read the specification yourself.
Yeah, that's super helpful. Thank you for those details.
Thanks. Boo, you have a comment. But you're muted.
Yeah, sorry about that. I'm not a technical person, obviously, myself, but knowing the thoroughness of the work that Samuel has been doing here and everywhere, I think it would be very important to get this material now thoroughly, let's say, approached, and if somebody disagree to lift up that, and if there is a common interest for the transatlantic interoperability, which I think is the core target here with all what is going on here in Europe, that would be extremely important for Open Wallet Foundation to actually grab this initiative and make it fly, or then say that this is not the right thing to do. How should that be done to get this? Now we are a pretty small group here, but what could be done to get a proper, let's say, investigation of who is for it and who is against it, a poll or whatnot? My question.
Yeah, thanks. And my answer would be that the kind of adoption of the DIIP profile will kind of, we are hoping that it will just emerge, and ecosystems who see that, okay, this is a good profile, we want to use OpenID for VC protocols and W3C data model or the SDJOTs, but we don't really need hype. We could use with something with lower assurance and better support currently. Then I think those would be the reasons to adopt the DIIP profile. But within this special interest group, of course, all of you are welcome to participate in the development of the next version of DIIP, and you are welcome to adopt DIIP in your own ecosystems. And if you are a software vendor, also make sure that your implementation is DIIP compliant. But those are not really the main focus areas of my pitch. My idea is just that when this group was formed, then I understand that it shouldn't be only about Aries Interop, but there should be many Interop profiles. And this also in Aries, the actual specifications, I think, are maintained in the Decentralized Identity Foundation. So kind of how or where DIIP is maintained, that's one question, but I think the core focus area for this special interest group is how can we test for the interoperability, how can we ensure that these different profiles are met, and whether a piece of software actually implements the requirements of the profile. So that's more my topic today, that okay, we want to have test suites, test harnesses, and documentation of interoperability. And then the call to action is that if you want to tell something about what we should take into account when building this testing tooling for DIIP, please get in touch. Or if you even want to volunteer and participate in the test tooling, then also please contact, and you are more than welcome to participate.
Okay, so my question was more that will this call to action be heard by many enough? Because I think this really to me sounds extremely important, and what can Open Wallet Foundation do for it? Sorry, I jumped in. Adrian is before me.
That's okay. Thank you, Samuel. That was a great presentation. And I have to say, before, kind of like a month ago, I didn't really know about this Interop profile, so I'm glad you presented on it. From my understanding, I mean, the Open Wallet Foundation hasn't really maintained any specifications as of yet, right? Because they're more of, open source activity.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, it would be funny if the decentralized identity Interop profile with the name wasn't part of DIIP with Decentralized Identity Foundation. But I think you're right. It is important because the Aries Interop profiles definitely don't cover everything that wallets should be covering. It's more agent based, and so this is definitely important. But yeah, I don't even know. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Sean, or other people that have been with OWF for longer, if OWF could even take on a spec, because wouldn't that change the organization?
Yeah, as of the current charter, which now I need to reread, we are chartered for open source software projects. And you're right, the standard stuff would be going to DIIP. In general, in the LFDT context, if it wasn't a well, with the exception of a non-creds, if it was a standards effort, it would be going over to either DIIP or it'd be going to JDF. So right now we're not set up for that.
Yeah, and I want to reiterate that there is already a process how to maintain DIIP profile, and it's currently owned by the FIDES community, and there are no active activities to kind of try to move it somewhere else. And also for the test tooling, it's currently worked on in a EU project. It might be that after that project, if there is a test harness and test tooling, then somebody might make a request for Open Wallet Foundation to adopt that as a project, as a kind of sibling project for Aries Interop profile testing tools. But there hasn't been any suggestions that we should do that. So that is not also not a part of my suggestion that Open Wallet Foundation would adopt the test tooling, or that this special interest group would take the lead of developing that. Maybe just that this special interest group should follow the work which is done, and then maybe collaborate. And it might be that at some point it would be nice to have both the Aries test harness and DIIP test harness in the same place. But I think it's quite early for that discussion at this point, because there is no DIIP test harness yet.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Let's see, I just want to make sure that I'm following. So it sounds like so the spec is the Interop profile is currently owned by the FIDES community, and there's not a conversation about moving it. The conversation is about where there can be collaboration related to a test harness and test tooling for the Interop profile.
Yeah, I think that would be a great summary. Thanks.
Yeah, cool. Thank you. Yeah. We don't have Patrick St. Louis on the call today. He did a great presentation a few months ago on an overview of test suites around Interop. So I think I'll reach out to him after this presentation and yeah, to get his opinion and thoughts on this based on that background information that he gave.
Do you have a list of software that is incorporating DIIP to some extent? I mean, I'm sure Credo, right? But anything besides Credo?
Not a list yet. I think we want to produce that list, and also within PS in Findinet want to kind of say that these are the agent and wallets compliant with DIIP. There may be some communication about last November's Plugfest about which organizations participated and which tools were used, but I don't think that's a comprehensive list of DIIP compliant software. But also maybe in that Plugfest, it's still kind of was demonstrated that even if a vendor says that my software is DIIP compliant, it's still not really interoperable. And so when released the version 4 a week ago, then we need to set up more rigorous testing, and after having better tests, then we can really say something about who is compliant and who is not. So what we could currently say that these vendors have claimed to be compliant or try to be compliant with DIIP version 3 or DIIP version 4, but there is no such list published to my knowledge at the moment.
All right, thank you.
I had one or two other questions just about the profile itself. Is it okay to ask those?
Yeah, sure. For me, it's
Let's see. Yeah, I was curious about the decision towards the token status list rather than bitstring status list.
Yeah, and I would say that there is no big functional difference between the two. And maybe that just that the IETF token status list is a signed JOT, whereas the bitstring status list is just a file which is not signed. So the idea is that with the IETF token status list, the issuer could sign the status list, but then give it to somebody else to host. And then if the verifier fetches that list from the hosting organization, then we can kind of avoid the call phone problem. So the issuer doesn't know even who is asking for status information. And so that kind of the external party is taking or removing this, breaking the loop between the verifier and issuer in a good way. And also the verifier can trust the status list because it's signed by the issuer. So those were maybe the reasons behind the choice. And also, I think one factor was that the high assurance Interop profile requires the IETF token status list, and we kind of want to make the DIIP to be close to high assurance Interop profile and kind of aligned where it makes sense. So hope this answered the question.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Hi, Fabrice, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, good evening, good morning. Fabrice Trogan, Topan Security. Still in that line of status, do you see the wallet app or the app also checking for the status? I'm asking in regards to the RHP that also requires that functionality, which for me is for the reader, but kind of curious if that's also something the wallet should do.
Yes, the current version of the DIIP profile doesn't really say that the wallet should check for the status information or verify the status of credentials held in that wallet. I think that's up to the wallet vendor to decide whether to offer that kind of functionality. And also that's kind of, I would say that it's nice to know information for the holder, but it's not a must requirement. So currently DIIP is not requiring that.
Okay, thank you.
I was also curious about the decision towards DIDWeb versus DIDWebS or DIDWebVH.
Yeah, good question. And we had actually one draft version of the version 4 of DIIP profile required support for DIDWebVH, but removed that and replaced it back to the DIDWeb because DIDWebVH was so young. We felt that we can kind of get better coverage by the current support of the wallet vendors. So it's easier for wallet vendors to support DIDWeb right now, and maybe in 6 months we can release a new version of DIIP, which would require WebH version of DIDWeb.
Okay, cool. That's great to hear. Yeah, especially with the 1.0 spec of DIDWebVH.
Yes. And also kind of when there was a question that whether we have a list of software that complies with DIIP profile, it would be also nice to see which wallets and agents are supporting DIDWebVH. So we could kind of collaborate and also see that is information, and that would be also kind of a weighing factor in when we are specifying the next version of DIIP profile. If there are, for example, dozens of wallets and agents already supporting DIDWebVH, then we could say that, okay, yeah, it's really ready for use prime time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Stephen wasn't able to make it today, but I'll ask him about that. I think that'd be really useful.
I just mentioned in the chat that already on the May 7th, before the final version 4 of DIIP specification was agreed, we issued a request for proposals in our website. So Fintinet is looking for wallet providers to make their wallets DIIP compliant, and we are supporting their efforts. So they are free to kind of send a proposal that, okay, we do this for this amount of money, and then we have budgeted 60,000 euros for this project, and we'll support as many wallet vendors as we can with that money. Maybe Sean, is it too much to ask that you could add this information also to the wiki page?
Absolutely. I'll get it in there right now.
Thanks.
And I'll include it in the newsletter and the other stuff I mentioned before.
Yeah. But the deadline of the RFP is this, I think, Wednesday. So it's only 2 days left.
Okay, I can get the recording of this out tomorrow. The newsletter doesn't go out until until Thursday, but I can get it up on LinkedIn tomorrow, definitely. Let me do that.
Yes.
I'll put it on Discord.
Yes, thanks.
Let's see, are there other questions or thoughts that anybody would like to share?
You can also always contact me by email, and if you come up with a question that didn't appear right this moment. And I would also kind of maybe would like to have some kind of a revisit to this topic, maybe in June, July, maybe in August, when when we have made some progress with the harness test suite, and also kind of when people have had time to digest the idea, and then kind of also thinking about the future of test suites for Interop profiles.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that'd be great to come back to this in the next couple of months. And yeah, really, really great to get the word out about this. Thank you for thank you for presenting on the profile, and yeah, this was super helpful.
Okay, thanks for having me. Mo has yet another comment.
Yes, I do hope that that the wallet providers address the interoperability. It comes up every day in discussions at what wallets are interoperable, because now it is seen by, I think, a majority of those who discuss the AI agents on LinkedIn, at least, that you can't have an AI agent without an ID wallet, and you can't employ an AI agent without credentials from your ID wallet and all that. And I think it's a kind of a no-brainer by now. And I was really myself pretty worried that the hype about AI, which is of course needed, is taking away the attention from the fundament of the whole thing, which is the trust infrastructure we have been talking about in Open Wallet Foundation and trust over IP and self-sovereign identity for ages already. But now it then turns out, luckily, that the most important reason for getting the wallets in place and the credentials flowing is not anymore the 3 to 6% growth in gross national product that McKinsey promised, EU only 2% only, but the need for the AI agents, which is the most important discussion, it seems, in almost all organizations that I know about these days. So we were lucky to get a new horse in front of the trust infrastructure work that we started already long ago. So please, all of you present here, just add some horsepowers to the whole thing, and what Samuel has now been presenting here is, I think, a very, very concrete thing about the all-important interoperability of wallets. Thank you.
Definitely agree to that. Let's see, are there final thoughts or questions?
I want to give everybody a chance to share a final thought, and then Shar, I do have a bit of housekeeping.
Sounds great. Was there anything else, Samuel, that you wanted to share or
No,
conclude with?
I'm fine, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Great. Yeah, thank you so much. This was a really great discussion.
Cool.
right,
Thanks,
take it away,
everybody.
Shar.
Just wanted to make a quick note. Shar, correct me if I'm wrong. The wallet interoperability SIG does not meet next Monday. We're off because in the States it's the Memorial Day holiday. We are gonna get back together on June 2nd. And we're gonna have a session about EUDI wallets, if I'm not mistaken. But so there is no call next week. I'm gonna remove it from the calendar. Shar, I'm right about that, right?
Yes, that is
All right,
all true.
Well, it's assured. Yeah, so I'm gonna remove it from the calendar, and we'll see everybody in 2 weeks. Back to you, Shar.
Sounds great. Sounds great. Thanks, Sean. Yeah, thanks for mentioning that. Thank you so much, Samuel, for leading this discussion and presenting on the DIIP. That was really helpful, and looking forward to revisiting the discussion in the next few months. So thanks everybody for joining and sharing your thoughts.
Thank you.
Thank
Have a great
Thank
rest of the
you.
day.
Thanks, Samuel.
Thank
you.
you. Have a great rest of your day.
Bye,
Bye.
y'all.
Thank